Hey there, this is Elizabeth, the teaching artist for the Timken Museum of Art. The museum has asked me to create a series of art videos to share with the community as we all cope and navigate through the COVID-19 crisis. The paintings you are seeing now are from the current exhibition at the Timken called Captivating Women. Although the museum is still closed, you can view a video or a PowerPoint presentation about the exhibition on the Timken website. The art supplies for today are simple, just a pencil and paper. Before we begin the project, I need to teach you about value. In art, value can be how much an artwork is worth, but it also relates to how light or dark something is. All objects or scenes you draw have a variety of values: light values, medium values, and dark values. We achieve this effect through shading. To practice shading, I would suggest creating a grayscale like I'm doing here. Notice how each box gets progressively darker. Number 1 is the white of the paper, and number 5 is all the way to black. 2, 3, and 4 are all lighter and darker grays. Notice while I was shading, I was using the side of my pencil and changing direction, slowly layering it to dark. Don't go dark too quick. It's much easier to make something darker later on than having to erase and make it lighter. And use your finger, it's a great blending tool. Alright, let's start. The eyes are the window to the soul is going to show you how to draw a realistic eye. To begin, you need to draw a big circle in the center of your paper. That big circle is your eyeball. Inside that eyeball is going to be a smaller circle about 1/3 of the size, which is the iris. Inside the iris will be another circle in the center, and that's going to be our pupil. Next, draw a line from one side of the eyeball to the other, slightly below the pupil. Then draw the upper and lower parts of the eye so that they meet on either side of this line. The line for the upper eyelid will slightly overlap the iris at the top, and the line for the lower eyelid will meet with the bottom of the iris. Add a tear duct on the left side. We are drawing a right eye. The photo at the bottom left of the screen is our reference. Now I'm drawing the upper eyelid and referring to the picture of the eye to see the shape it needs to take. Moving on. I'm going to indicate where the eyebrow is going to go because it's going to hit the very top of the eyeball. You can erase away some of those extra lines to help you see more clearly. Next, I'm starting to refine some of my lines with the lower lid using a slightly darker line. I'm going to go ahead and add now the shapes for the highlights of the eye. Check that reference to figure out where they go. Now I've begun shading the pupil in. The pupil of the eye is actually a hole. You can see it in this picture. Since it is a hole, it's going to be darker, like a number 5 on the value scale. However, don't go straight to number 5. Slowly build your darks. Now I'm shading in the shadow from the upper eyelid and some of the shadowing on the lower eyelid. I want to pay attention to the reference and make sure to create a variety of values similar to what I see in my grayscale. Match the values you're seeing in the reference with the values in the grayscale, which means the center of the eye, the eyebrow, and the eyelashes are my darkest values. Now what I'm doing is starting to shade in the center of the iris around the pupil. That area is also darker. The direction of the marks I'm making are kind of like starbursts coming out from the center. And then as I shade, I continue to refine my drawing. So I start to clean up and darken some of my lines. Please don't make things too dark too quick. It's always easier to make them darker later than it is to have to erase a lot. So looking at the reference, I noticed that the outer edge of the iris is a lot darker. So I'm going ahead and making it a little darker. Again, I'm not going to make it straight black because the only parts of this picture that are straight black are the center of the eye, the eyebrow, and some of the eyelashes. I got to save those darks for only those areas. So now I'm shading in this space in between the eyebrow and the eyelid. There's a lot of shadowing in there, but notice it's not black. It's more like a number 3 or possibly a number 4 in some areas from your grayscale. Now I'm very lightly and carefully adding more darks as I go. I notice the crease of the upper eyelid is a little darker, so I got darker there. I put some shadowing underneath the eye. I use a very light touch with my pencil for that area under the eye. Now I'm shading in some of the white of the eye. The white of the eye is not actually white. The only part of this picture that will be completely white will be the highlights inside the eye. Now I'm starting to add the eyelashes. Add them in layers. This is my first layer. When I look closely at the reference, I can see that the eyelashes overlap one another, come out in multiple directions, multiple lengths, and multiple values. Notice how I created a little shelf on the lower eyelid. There's a little space in between where the eyelashes come out and the part of the lower lid that actually touches the eye. You want the eyelashes to come off that outer edge. Now I'm just slightly shading things darker, checking my reference and seeing where I can get a little darker. Now I'm sketching in the eyebrow using pencil marks that move in the direction of the hairs that I see in the reference. It's going to be a little darker towards the left of the eyebrow and lighter up top where I'm starting to erase. Now I'm going to zoom in and we're going to start in on the details of the center of the eye. So it looks like, looking at the reference, that I can get darker at the base of the eyelashes. I can get darker more on the bottom eyelashes. I'll start to detail those out a little more and be more specific. I'm starting to shadow the white of the eye a little bit. The upper eyelid will shadow the white of the eye. I'll use my finger to blend. I'll come back in with the pencil and see where I can get a little more shadowing and a little more detail. At this point, I'm noticing that the center of the eye could be a little darker, but I want to be careful not to cover up my highlights. You'll also see, if you look closely, that I added little shadows of the eyelashes into the highlights. Now I'm coming in and going for my darkest darks throughout the picture. I waited to the very end to do this. I can't emphasize enough how important it is not to get too dark too soon. That's how you lose control of your drawing and get frustrated. And another way to avoid frustration is don't try and be perfect. Don't try to match the eye exactly. Use the photo as a reference to help you to learn how to draw a realistic eye, but don't be so tied to it that if it doesn't look exactly like the picture or exactly like my drawing, to gauge whether you're successful or not. You're successful because you're trying something new and you're trying something that's not easy. The trick is to find one part of the drawing that you like and consider the whole effort a success. Okay, your turn. Pause the video here and good luck.